Hello and welcome to the Midweek Fix with me, Jamie Home, in what feels like the longest international break in history. The good news is the Reds will be back at the weekend, and we will be watching some proper football yet again. Quick shout out to the sponsor of the Midweek Fix, that's footballprizes.co.uk. And yet again, the lads have nailed it. This week they have a custom-made, signed and framed Virgil van Dijk and Trent Alexander-Arnold jersey together in the same frame. There are 125 tickets available. The offer ends next Wednesday. It's only $9.95 to enter. And this week, they have made a special discount code available for our listeners. That will be 10% off at checkout with the code LFCDT10. It's a cracking prize, so do go check it out. Now, off the back of last week's show, where we focused on Steven Gerrard, we're going to continue the theme of greatness for tonight. And we're going to look at a range of topics. And the lads have no idea about these topics. I didn't want them to research. I just wanted them to give us their gut reaction to a range of topics about the greatest of Liverpool. Now, joining me tonight is Gav, Stevo and Jonathan. Delighted to say, Stevo, after nearly 2 years, we get to do a podcast together, my friend. You look fantastic as always.
Good to be back. Good to be back, Jamie. Thanks for having me on, mate.
No worries. My hair's starting to mirror yours a little bit now, mate, since we last did.
You need the back comb with the hairdryer to get the lift in it. That's the thing.
Is that what it is? Okay. I'm new to this. Jonathan, good to have you join us, mate. How have you been coping with lockdown? All right?
Yeah, all good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
No worries at all, pal. Great to have you. Gav, I feel like with the theme of the greatest, you're just going to answer John Barnes to pretty much every single question that I ask you. Is that fair?
John Barnes night, 100%. It's John Barnes night, and every answer is John Barnes. Yep, okay. 100%.
Totally fair. That's the end of the post. The podcast is done, everybody. Thank you very much, and good night.
Everyone off the Warzone.
That's it. Go play some Warzone. So we're going to start, right? First question that I want to come around the room, and it's pretty much on the theme of what Gav has just been talking. There's a lot of chat that's been going on in our Discord group, lots of questions being fired in for the lads, and we're going to start with probably the most broad of the topics, and that is Liverpool's greatest ever player. And as Gav, we kind of, I think, know your answer to this question. I'm going to come to you first.
I didn't know you were going to say greatest ever player. I think it's hard to pick that, simply because a lot of us are working on video footage. Like people will talk about Souness, Dalglish, Emlyn Hughes. They go right back. They go right back. But when I think of who I think is the best Liverpool player I've seen, it's John Barnes, and it always has been. And like people, it all depends when you're born, isn't it? Because like if you're born in '95, you haven't seen any of John Barnes really at Liverpool. He leaves in '97, I think. But your hero is probably Robbie Fowler. If you're born 10 years earlier, your heroes probably could be Barnes, could be Rush. You don't know. But for me, I get slated for this because they go, what about Suarez? What about this? John Barnes was fucking unbelievable as a footballer. And I'm born in '82. John Barnes arrives at Liverpool in '87, and he's the first player I remember. He genuinely, like my first memory of Liverpool is the '86 Cup final, and the only reason I remember it is because all my mother's side of the family were Liverpool fans. So, you on FA Cup day, you'd be probably up in the granny's house, and if Liverpool were on, especially in a cup final, they were all there, and it's just embedded in your brain. So the '86 Cup final. But John Barnes, just when you see kids nowadays and they see something amazing and their eyes widen, it's like, what is going on here? That was what I was like with John Barnes. The pace, the power, the aerial ability, the skill, the finishing, the assist. He had everything, Jamie. He had fucking everything. And I look at players nowadays and they say to me, oh, but he's the greatest ever. look, I don't, I hesitate to even guess how much John Barnes would be worth in today's market, because he had the lot. Like, if you look at him, 87, 88, that team tears English football apart. It tears English football apart. 88, 89, there's circumstances there that affect Liverpool, and fine. But then he's a winger. He's a left winger, but he's scoring with his right foot, left foot, headers. He had everything. And then you see him go centre forward, I think in 89, 90, I think it was. And I think he gets 25 goals. And it just shows, just put him anywhere, he was that good. And, the other lads will have a word on John Barnes, I'm sure. But for me, the best player I've ever seen play for Liverpool to this day is still John Barnes.
Steve, Chris Brack makes a good point. He says, does the team a player played in impact their greatness? I.e. Dalglish and Barnes played in wonderful teams. Gerrard played in some average sides, but still won us stuff. Do you think that's a fair comment? And who would your player be if you had to pick?
Yeah, I think it's a perfectly fair comment. I think John Barnes is a great shout for lots of people who watched him. I'm the same age as Gav, but I didn't get the pleasure of seeing him as much, because as I got to sort of 6, I moved away for a few years, and just the Premier League coverage isn't anything like what it is now. So I came back in 91, moved away in 88, came back in 91. And you could kind of say he was, I won't say he was on the wane at that point, but definitely those late 80s years whilst, Kenny was still managing, that had an impact on him being a phenomenal player. Of course, he brought natural ability with him, but he came into one, if not the best team in Europe. He made it better. And was a phenomenal player. But, as soon as comes in, Barnes' capabilities, his injuries, whatever else, they're all on the wane. So for me, it's Steven Gerrard, because I look at some of the dog shit that he was surrounded by at times, compared to the really top Liverpool side. It's probably being harsh saying dog shit, but average to higher end average players. And he still had such an impact on that side. And I was lucky enough to see him play in some really big games. I got to the 2006 FA Cup final and was behind the goal when he scored that fucking last minute strike to bring it to extra time. And yeah, just for a player to pull us through, I don't think our current generation appreciate him enough yet. Maybe some people will, some people won't. I think in another 10 years, when we're in the Souness category of time having passed on, or the Barnes category of time having passed on, maybe more people will really see. You put Steven Gerrard into this current Liverpool side, and he'd still probably be the best player in the team. He was just that good. He had everything, and he, despite his, his little wobble when he wanted to go to Chelsea for a couple of months, really it's a player that came up through the ranks, stayed with us pretty much his entire career, and really, let's be honest, he should have retired with us. If Brendan Rodgers had done it right, he would have retired with us as well. So yeah, for me, it's Steven Gerrard. We've been lucky enough to be graced by some amazing footballers at this club, but in the time I've supported and for what he did and for how he pulled us through games, yeah, Steven Gerrard.
Jonathan, do you think there's a question around longevity in how that plays into this debate? Because I know from my own perspective, if you're looking at greatest ever player, I'm not going to disagree. Certainly with Stevo, I agree with him. I think Steven Gerrard is our greatest player, but I'm clouded by the years that I saw. Obviously, I wasn't exposed to Kenny too much, the likes of John Barnes, only a little bit when I was younger. If you said to me the same question in a slightly different way, who's the most talented? I would be talking about Luis Suarez. But the fact that he didn't stay at the club for so long, and I think he only won, I think it was a League Cup. Do you think that there's questions around the longevity when we have this type of debate, and who would your player be?
Oh, I definitely think there has to be, because look, take Suarez as an example. That season is probably the best as a personal achievement in terms of again, I think it's something that the guys touched on there. I think it is going to be years' time before we realise and watch back just how good he was, because he was just ridiculous. Like, talking about possibly the best player in the world at the time, and I think I will stand over and fight that argument with anybody, because he was just ridiculous. Like, some of the work rate that he would sit in, he would come out the wing, he would match up with Suarez, with Sturridge. Sometimes he would play up front, he'd go in the wing, he'd put a graft in. But he was just out of this world. But he didn't do it long enough for Liverpool. Like, he came in, he came into Liverpool as kind of, under the shadow of Torres leaving. He was quite poor for a while. Like, his finishing at the start was all over the place. I remember even people some cribbing when he came back after the first long time. He came on. I can't remember who he played at Anfield, but it was a draw. And he came on, and I think he missed even half an hour. Typical Suarez. He missed 4 or 5 big opportunities. He wasn't a great finisher at the time. He turned in, and
there was a lot of talk actually about him not being a natural finisher.
There was, because he was that street fighter that he would, he'd bowl his way through that chink and kind of slam runs through the penalty area so many times, but he would just, more often than not, he would just blast it anywhere, or, it was just, the calmness came a little bit in, and I suppose Rodgers does have to get a little bit of credit for that. He definitely took his game to the next level. But if you're talking about Liverpool legends and, to be in the discussion with some of the players that's been mentioned in the last 5-10 minutes or so, he's nowhere really near that in my mind. Yes, it was a flash of brilliance, and I think you have to factor in his behaviour. He's been a little bit, I suppose, tetchy and cynical and a bit of blind kind of Liverpool bias, but his behaviour around the Barcelona ties in particular, I thought was a little bit kind of uncalled for. But I guess that's the Suarez, that's his personality. Maybe he can't change it, but it definitely impacted. And as much as many memories I have of being on the Cop the night for the Barcelona game, one of the surreal kind of the atmosphere and everything goes with that. Part of it is me going, a player that we idolise being told fuck off Suarez for the whole of Anfield for a while as well. A player that was done so much in not only a couple of years previous as well. So I think you got to factor in for that. If you're talking about me and my Liverpool legend, greatest ever player, it is Gerrard as well. I'll be definitely jumping on that bandwagon. Like, that's probably a personal story as well. I remember my first game, it was at the end of when Houllier had just taken over that first season, where he started off with himself and Roy Evans in charge, and Houllier took over at the end of the season. It was my first game over there. It was a Tottenham game, a 3-2 victory towards the end of that season. And without going all man, this was different times. We didn't have the same coverage we have. We didn't have the same exposure to the academy. So I have to confess, I'd never even heard of Gerrard, who Gerrard was before that, until I saw him that day. We were 2-0 down at half time. He came on at half time. I remember seeing who's this young lad come on into the course of the game from right back. And like, I suppose this, got the old child has got to meet him afterwards, got the autograph. That was the days where you could go over and jump on the players as they came out at the side of Anfield there. And I suppose there was a personal tale to me and, emotional attachment with that. But what Gerrard achieved over the length of his career in various positions, and I think you only have to look at former pros and stuff like that, and so many people, so many former players that have played for other clubs and might have trained with him in England or whatnot, they'll all reference Gerrard as the best they ever saw. And I think the longevity of that what he achieved, yes, he had that little flirt, but in terms of the commitment, what he gave to the whole of Liverpool cause over such a long period, and ultimately got shafted by Rodgers, and it should have stayed, but still came back in the coaching role and gave a bit more back. And I suppose we all watch Curtis Jones play blinded for the England under-21s earlier on, but even small things, the focus and the development he gave and that extra boost that he gave to Jones in that short space of time as well. Someone that's always given back to the club, and look, it's a conversation for another day. We'll probably get back more in years to come, but for me, the greatest ever for me personally he will always be Steven Gerrard.
Now I'm going to come to the next topic, right? And I'm going to come to, and Gav, but before I jump on to the next topic, you're still sticking with John Barnes, Steven Gerrard over John Barnes? No, we can't sway you.
Yeah. I'll tell you why. Don't get me wrong, Gerrard, like Stevo said, he was surrounded by average players, some very, very poor players, and at times some absolutely amazing players as well, in fairness. And John Barnes did come into an era where Liverpool were in that. They were still in that pomp, But what kills... I always feel John Barnes is underrated as a footballer because he didn't get to play in Europe for Liverpool. I think if he gets 87 to 91 4 seasons in Europe, he goes down easily as one of the players that you just... people around the world reminisce about all the time. I think that hurts his reputation a little bit because you didn't get to see him on that sort of stage. I think he's treated badly by England through the course of his English career. The abuse he gets from English fans, from people in grounds at league games and around the country. It wasn't fair on but it was something he had to take at the time, and thankfully that has, we say it's got better. I don't know how much better it's got, but he has to endure that as well as a very high profile player at the time. But yeah, still for me, like, don't get me wrong, Gerrard, Olympiacos goals, Istanbul, the FA Cup, or the FA Cup final, he's done so much, but I still think the player that made me kind of on the edge of my seat and just was in awe of him and everything he done. Yeah, it will always be for me, John Barnes, and will be for a long time.
Stevo, Jonathan makes a good point in the chat. He says, not much of a mention for Salah so far, Champions League and Premier League winner. It's mad how Mo never gets into these type of conversations, or do you just think it's just a case of being a little bit too early for him?
Yeah, I do, because it's 4 seasons now he's been there, and that's my problem. Xabi Alonso could be in that conversation as well as a phenomenal keeper. I saw people putting up Van Dijk, and it's just too early for them. When I'm talking about a footballer who literally had 16 years at the club, and somebody mentioned their League Cup final goal, UEFA Cup final goal, Champions League Cup final goal, FA Cup final goal, and he should have been. Let's be honest, he should have been lifting a Premier League trophy in 13-14 as well. That's for me. That's impossible to beat, even by John Barnes. I can't comment on Kenny Dalglish, and it's just a different game. It's just a different game in the last 20 years to what it was before. I'm not doubting his ability. You can only play the opposition that's in front of you and all those things. But it's the same comment around Pele versus Messi and Ronaldo now. You know what I mean? It's chalk and cheese in a way. So yeah, for me, Gav hasn't in any way turned my head. It's still Stevie Gerrard, and that's down to longevity. It's down to his achievements. It's down to him captaining the side and dragging us through some pretty tough times when we were average. And listen, that to me has a lot of that holds a lot of a lot of stead for me. So Mo, yeah, listen, Mo is top goal scorer for us winning another league in next year or whatever it might be. Then yeah, he's definitely in the conversation. He's a phenomenal footballer, and man, I'm sorry, people, I keep on seeing it over the last 12, 14 weeks. People before matches, Michael Owen, Ian Wright, whoever it might be, talking about Mane, how he's such a danger, and Salah just isn't in the conversation before games, and he's our only lethal goal scorer this season. So yeah, he's a phenomenal footballer and deserves to be in the conversation, but he's on a different level to the likes
for me, Salah's on a different level to Suarez. Like, I get, like, the 13-14 thing with Suarez was scandalous what he was at, right? Like, I bundling his way through, setting up, it was amazing to watch. Do you know what? It's still probably up there. It's probably the most exciting season I've had, genuinely, because it was mad. It was like
one end of the pitch you got Suarez, the other end of the pitch you got Ali Sissoko.
It was crazy.
Remember, he missed the first number of games.
5 games. He missed the first 5. But the thing is, like, 18-19 was some race between us and City. We storm in 19-20, right? But 13-14 was just insane, and Suarez was out of this world. But when you look back, I can't in any way see how you would put Luis Suarez above Mo Salah in rankings of great Liverpool players. If we do this in 10 years' time, I don't know how you do it, because Salah has just been fucking outrageous as well.
Yeah, Salah's first season is as good as Luis Suarez 13-14 in terms of goal scoring. You know what I mean?
4 goals.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. It's a phenomenal season that he's had, but he hasn't let up. He hasn't hit. I could be wrong. Someone will tell me. I'm not arsed with the exact details, but he hasn't hit less than 30 goals a season since he's joined us, has he? We hit 23, 24 goals Premier League, but I'm talking about
overall. Yeah. He's a ridiculous return with regards to goal involvements, even in goals and assists compared to games.
We're talking about phenomenal finishers. You have to bring Robbie Fowler into the conversation.
Ah, what a player!
If it hadn't been for, he's the most natural goal scorer we've ever had at the club, bar none. Had it not been for injuries, we would have been talking about him breaking Ian Rush's goal scoring record, probably. He was exceptional, and like, he was my idol when I really started getting into supporting Liverpool. He was just coming through, and to watch him play football, that goal against Aston Villa, when he just sends Staunton, I think he fucking puts on his arse and just bends it from 30 yards out or 25 yards. It's just phenomenal. Yeah. Anyway.
Now, Jonathan, I'm going to come to you for the next topic first. And again, to remind people in the chat, the lads have not seen any of the questions in advance, right? So forgive them if some of them slip their mind. Now, the question is Liverpool's greatest ever signing. And there's lots of ways that you can look at this. You can look at what they delivered. You can look at their price. You can take it whichever way you want. Who are the players that are at the top of your mind when you think of pound for pound Liverpool's greatest ever signing?
Oh, that is a tough one. So many different tangents you can take this off. I think Salah straight away goes into that conversation for the amount of goals that he's delivered at a relatively low cost price as well, and the return has just been outrageous. And the guys are right. He will be in a couple of years' time, whenever he does leave and moves on to the next step. We do look back, we will be talking to him at one of these legendary status players, because he's just the involvement that he has is just outrageous. But then do you look at like Manny, the start of the first step of the Klopp revolution? Do you look at the impact that the likes of Van Dijk has made to, the importance that he has, and kind of led on to the Champions League and the two league campaigns? I'm even thinking a little bit younger back, thinking Sammy Hippier was at 4.5 million that was, and the stature that came on. So many different minds spinning here with different options, because there has been so many. I suppose in terms of taking Liverpool to the next level, it's probably the obvious one really is Van Dijk, because just the way he has, not only his personal performance and his own personal attributes that he's given towards the team, but the way he rolls everyone else around them. And I've never seen a player kind of intimidate the opposition much. I remember even, I think it was last season, the ball, it looks like he's turned it right, and it's Aaron Connolly coming spinning through, and he just kind of pushes the ball on his back and he spins around, loops it up around Connolly's head and just spins down. You can just Connolly going, what the hell has just happened? You think of that, the game away at Wolves, where Van Dijk, I think, is at a colder and chest infection all week. Traore has given him a head start, and he just bombs it past him, wins the ball, and pushes him out of the way and clears it. I think in terms of, I've never seen a player that have that much class, have that much ability, but just absolutely scare the bejesus out of everyone else around and bring players. We saw, people were saying that, Lovren was inconsistent, and next thing he's alongside Van Dijk and he looks like a world beater. Gomez, everyone said he had too many mistakes in his game, etc., etc. The amount of players that he brought, the impact that he gave, I think, yes, it's the obvious one in terms of the huge fee, but the impact he has left on the football club is just ridiculous. Yes, there's been other players, but he has come in, he's become the number one position in the world. Everyone kind of idolizes him, and that impact for me, if you're going kind of the impact, the greatest signings I'd probably have on the spot, I'd probably have to lean towards Van Dijk.
It's funny, you see all the comments coming in the chat, and everybody's making a good point to Jurgen Klopp, Gav. It's hard when you look at this, if we're talking about transformative effects, and I think Jonathan is bang on the money in terms of Van Dijk on the playing field, but there's no one that's been more influential in turning the fortunes of a club than Jurgen Klopp. Who would you have at the top of your list?
I'm a bit hesitant to do this because I presume we're going to talk managers in a while, but I'm going to do it anyway. Kenny Dalglish. I think it's easy. Kenny Dalglish comes in from Celtic in 77 after Keegan has won the European Cup for Liverpool the previous season. Keegan goes off to play for Hamburg, I think. And look what he's done. He's still fucking there. He's what a player, and like I said, I'm only born in 82, so, and literally my earliest memory in football is when he wins the double at Wembley. But there's so much footage of Dalglish you can go back and see, because he was a superstar. So if there was any footage from the day, it was probably on Dalglish. So you can go, but some of the goals, he scores one at Derby, where, do you remember you were saying about Fowler putting Staunton on his arse? Dalglish does this to a fella at Derby at the baseball ground, and he cuts, ball's played into him, inside right channel. He's about 40 yards from goal, and he just drops the shoulder and pushes her inside and he hits this left foot shot from fucking nowhere. And it's if you can get hold of it and then look at Fowler side by side, it's mad to watch. But what a player he was. And then he just takes over as manager in 85, and he wins the league. He wins the double. He wins another league title. But the biggest thing for me with Dalglish is Hillsborough. And when people talk about Dalglish, they do talk about his brilliant footballing career, his managerial career, what an ambassador he is for the club right up until this present day. But the biggest thing for me is Hillsborough, because he took so much on him. Watch all the footage. That man is broken. And
weighed heavy on him, didn't it?
Yeah, he's broken because he's trying to take everyone's grief and take it all on him. And he does a really, really good job of it. He takes as much as he possibly can. And you see then not long after Hillsborough, after I think it's a 4-4 draw away at Everton in the cup, he calls it a day at Liverpool and goes for a break and eventually reappears at Blackburn and Newcastle. But he comes back to help us after Hodgson in 2010, and he's still there now. So when you look at not just the footballer but the manager, the ambassador, and the man that in my opinion, held Liverpool Football Club and possibly a City together around the most tragic time in the club's history. I think when you spread that across those amount of years, those different roles, and how he's even looked upon today, I think it's an easy decision for me. The best signing Liverpool have ever made is Kenny Dalglish.
Kenny Dalglish, 440k from Celtic, won 15 honours as a player and 3 as a manager. You've got the likes, Stevo, of Ian Rush, 300k from Chester as a teenager. Look what he went on to do. I think Jonathan touched on it before. Sami Hyypiä, 2.6 million from Willem II, 450 appearances, 2 FA Cups, 2 League Cups, 1 UEFA Cup and a Champions League. Who's your money on?
Oh, it's so tough. The first person that came to my mind was Sami Hyypiä, just simply because such an unknown player in our lifetime to come in and have the impact he did. You can say pound for pound in terms of value, in a way, Philip Coutinho. We signed him for 8.5. We sell him for 136 or whatever it was. He allowed us to buy Virgil van Dijk and Alisson. So there's a shout for that. Yeah, listen, Kenny Dalglish is the answer without question if you take into account, no matter what you say about Jurgen Klopp, the impact that Kenny Dalglish has had on this club, in my opinion, is probably, and maybe I'll get slaughtered for this, probably bigger than Shankly. He's had a stand named after him, but he should have a statue outside as well. There's a shout when you look at him as a player, as a manager, as an ambassador, as an advisor to FSG. You look at even the reverence that Jurgen Klopp has for him. He's not someone that's got in the way. He's not one of those people that stuck around like a bad smell because of his reputation. He's actually still to this day giving back to the club, and what a humble man as well. What a man that does not want to take credit for anything that he's done. You listen to him even in his interview the day the stand is named after him, and he's referencing the foundation for his wife. He's referencing the people of the city. He's referencing his family. He doesn't want to take credit for anything he's done. He just views himself as having been a very lucky lad from Scotland who got the chance to play for Liverpool and then just did his best. That's how he views it, and I believe that's genuine in how he sees things as a man, which is phenomenal, because in this fucking modern narcissistic world, it's absolutely unheard of to come across somebody like him. So yeah, he's phenomenal. If you want to look at then, I don't agree with Van Dijk actually as an answer, because, and I wouldn't agree with Alisson either. And sorry, I'm not meaning to be confrontational about it, but they were world record fees for
You're not confrontational, are you, Stevo?
Not these days, Jamie. I've
mellowed, have you, mate?
I've mellowed. But yeah, like Van Dijk, he's been phenomenal. I love him. I absolutely love him to bits. But we paid 75 million quid for him. You fucking expect that level or a similar level of impact for him coming in. Admittedly, Man United went out and paid 80 million for Harry Maguire, but that's a different conversation. But no, like I'm saying, when you break a world record, you're expecting something. It's Newcastle expected a level of impact from Shearer when they went and spent 15 million quid on him, when that was unheard of. And that's what we got from Van Dijk. Thankfully, it worked out and we've got the level of impact that we expect. But when you look at someone like Ian Rush, you look at someone like Kenny Dalglish, you look at somebody like Sami Hyypiä, whoever it might be, that came in and were just phenomenal players for relatively small amounts of money, then yeah, that's ultimately, you know, a different ball game to the likes of Van Dijk or Alisson, or, you know, when we sign Mbappe this summer.
Jonathan, I'm going to come to you and the next topic, and you touched on a game that stood out for you, which was obviously the first one that you've been to see, and Steven Gerrard had a lasting impact on you. What would you class as the greatest Liverpool game? And again, this is completely open to interpretation, because I've got about 2 or 3 that stick out that might not always be the obvious ones.
Yeah, the obvious ones stick out straight away is Istanbul, of course, 05 final. There's been some crazy ones there, like younger ones as memories, the 5-4 UEFA Cup final, Alaves in the treble season. That was one of those kind of stepping point mark, or kind of the return of the club as well after being in the doldrum for so many years. The FA Cup final we touched on earlier on with Gerrard as well is another one of those magical moments. But yes, look, we've been lucky, and you know, in our lifetime, and it will continue to be. Look at the history of the club, and I think somebody said which was the greatest game or whatever, and it's the correct answer is the next one, because it feels like that. It feels like one can never get any better than the other. You've even look at some of the great European nights the last couple of years. You're thinking back the recent ones, Olympiacos, Dortmund to a lesser extent as well, and just in terms of scale of competition. But the Barcelona game for me, in terms of the emotional roller coaster of 24 hours, will be very hard to be stopped. And I know it is a difficult question, as I said so many nights, but you think back the way we wore it, looked like the league title that everybody, let's be honest, craved, everyone prioritised over the Champions League. That was gone in the most craziest, weirdest circumstances with that company goal. A one in a lifetime, you know, a thing that he never did before, will never do again. In a game that looked like it was going to be the moment, it looked like Leicester and the fairy tales of Brendan Rodgers were going to give us that draw that we needed to hopefully capitalise, and it looked like everything was going to plan. And then you have this such freakish, wonderfully good strike, but in terms of football and the atmosphere, was just completely night and day. It didn't really exist in normal football in life, for a better word, but it flies in. You have the great scenes, and then you have the roller coaster at the end of the game as well, when Leicester missed that, you know, sitter right in front of the goal. And every Liverpool supporter was just deflated. We'd obviously had the tie the week previously as well, where the game of the new camp went kind of freakishly against plan. It was that result over there, I'll still argue, didn't really reflect the game of the football and the two teams the way it was. But we looked like we were out of the Champions League. It looked like the league had been gone. And I know even thinking back to myself, I had a crazy red-eye fly, and it was one of those moments where you're just slouched and you're like, do you know what, I'm really not arse going to watch this. We're never going to come back against this Barcelona team. And you got up, and then, you know, you meet people at the ground, and there isn't a buzz. Everybody's kind of a little bit despondent. And then you get in. There's no build-up. It's not like 05 with Chelsea, where, you know, it's only 1-0 down, or even both Chelsea semi-finals, where, you know, everything was tangible. I felt like you could get closer. There's a proper opportunity of the game being overturned. But then you come in the Barcelona game, and nobody's really giving you some hope. But kind of slowly, as you come into the stadium, you can feel that sense coming, and Anfield is loud. It's like that moment at the kickoff where it seemed to take an eternity, and for some reason it's Coutinho and Suarez over the ball, and the whole Anfield is abusing them. And then there's that chart.
Jonathan, you're going to make me want to get me shin pads and me boots on here, mate, and go and start doing some knee slides out the front.
that first charge forward, I think, was Manny drove forward down the left-hand side towards the Annie Road, and a roar that went around the stadium. And then it just kind of, it built it up to no place, if that makes sense. And like, look, I'm not going to go through whatever. We don't want Jamie running 2 foot on us here either side, but it led on to kind of a surreal, I suppose, almost once in a lifetime performance. When you think about it in the cold light of day, that result should never really have happened. Like, you're missing Salah, you're missing Firmino, but it happens. And, you know, if you capture one moment, it'd be, I can think back there afterwards, and there's so many scenes, so many side stories, even goosebumps even talking about it now. But for me, I will find it hard personally to find a better moment than that in terms of football game. Yes, there's been some better results, probably, arguably, but to get like that would have been an absolute atrocity if that team hadn't won the Champions League that season. Had gone season empty-handed, it would have just been unthinkable, really. And it has probably, I'm not sure would we won the league the next time in such emphatic way if we hadn't won the Champions League. I think it was an important stepping stone along. But for me, that game will be, when I'm thrown in the moment, that one is always going to stand out.
Gav, there was a comment from Kieran a couple of minutes ago, and he said Spurs 4, Liverpool 1, and I know what he means by that, because that was the game. That was the straw that broke. Yeah, that was the straw that broke the camel's back and changed everything for us. Where do you sit on this one? What game sticks out in the memory?
Oh, do you know what? As soon as you said it, like Jonathan says, Barcelona, the 4-0 against Barcelona is unreal. Istanbul, there's loads of them. The 2 Newcastles in the mid-90s were insane as well. But you know what one I'm going to go for, because it was at a time, I'm going back to 13-14 again, but it was at a time where you were trying not to get yourself excited, and you were trying, and you were holding yourself back, and then I couldn't hold myself back anymore, and it was Liverpool 3, Manchester City 2 at Anfield. Because we start that game like a fucking train. Sterling puts Joe Hart on his arse, if you remember, early doors, and scores. I think Skrtel gets a second, and then James Milner, of all people, comes on. And
they were good then, City. They took over, didn't they?
Yeah, and Milner turns it on its head. They get a goal back. I can't think who gets the first one, but the second one is a mad. I think it might have been an own goal. But it was the ball was all over the place, and Mignolet was flapping out of him. And then
just dribbles in, doesn't it?
What?
Just dribbles in that second one.
Yeah, just dribbles in. I think it may come off Glenn Johnson. I'm trying to think who gets the first one for City. It's a cutback. Silva. It might be Silva. It's a
cutback. Yeah, Miller on the right hand side.
Yeah, Milner cuts it back, and
it might be.
What?
I said that prick. I never liked Milner.
Yeah, but then when you think, you know, City will take this now, because at the time I think they've games in hand, and they'll take a draw all day, especially after being 2-0 down. Then Coutinho scores that goal, and the place fucking erupts, and that was the day I thought, we're going to do this, and it was the day where, you know, you kind of release emotion, because it's pent up in you, because you've seen so many Liverpool teams since 90, where you think, you know, could he do something? And I'm even talking the mid-90s, like that Newcastle game, if you remember, that Liverpool were still in the title race at that time when they beat Kevin Keegan's Newcastle. You look around 01-02, they come second, but they're a bit off Arsenal. You know, you move on a little bit, and of course you have 08-09 and stuff like that. But this one was the one where you really thought you could let out the emotion and really get on board with it. And it kind of killed me a little bit, because when they don't win that league, you go on and you look at 18-19, I was convinced Liverpool would win the league. And it wasn't even, you know, pent-up emotion. And it wasn't even a nervousness. It was just, they're so good that City will falter somewhere and we win that league. And we didn't, but you look what we done last season. Absolutely made up for it. But that game for me, there's so many, and we could go through them all night, but I wanted to go for something a little bit different when you answer that question. And I think that one there, despite you not leading to a league title, it was the one that I do remember watching, and it was just when Coutinho scores that, just going absolutely fucking berserk. I was in my mother-in-law's at the time. They didn't have a fucking clue what was going on, and
they've never asked you back since.
No, they were all out in the back garden, fucking barbecuing or something. I was flinging cans around our sitting room. It was fucking mental. But I don't even know if she's forgiven me till now. But that was the one where I just thought, you know, this is it. But that will always, despite what it ends up the season being, that one was just, I thought that was a special game.
I'm going to go for a bit of a mad one, Stevo, when it comes to you, right? So Gav said his little bit left field. Mine's going to be same season, and Liverpool versus Arsenal. I don't know if you remembered it. It was 5-1, 13-14. It was one of the maddest first half of football.
First goal, didn't he? And Suarez cracks the fucking bar at the Anfield Road end.
Yeah, exactly. With the greatest non-goal in the history of non-goals. I actually remember in that game sitting back and laughing at what I was seeing, because it was that good. I think it was Sturridge. The ball was played through, and then he just rolled it past the keeper into pretty much an empty net. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was like, this team are fucking incredible. What would yours be?
I've three actually. So there's probably two times when I've cried watching Liverpool games. The first one was the Champions League final in 05. I was in the Submarine Bar up on the fucking stage with 2 bottles of Miller like they were fucking Dom Perignon, spraying them all up.
Cheap bastard.
Like
I was say, you're a champagne man. What was up with you?
I wasn't back in those days, Jamie. I can tell you.
He was only 14. He was.
Michael Schumacher spraying everyone with this shit. Crying my lamps out after we won it. The other one was the Barcelona game, the 4-0, and that was probably a little bit different because my dad had only died suddenly a couple of weeks earlier, and I'd gone on holidays. I'd already had it booked, and I just needed to get away and get my head fucking straightened out and whatever else. And I was just sitting in the hotel room watching this game, and it just unfolding. I just thought I was watching us getting beaten, and I was thinking bollocks. You know what I mean? Sitting down to watch the game at the start. That's what my thoughts were. And Origi scores that early goal, and it's just fucking hang on a second. And then it just second half as it went bing, bing, bing. So just emotion got the better of me. But probably one that sticks with me, and it's probably for a personal reason, was the Madrid final. We went over, a few of us, myself, Shawnee, Ray, Dicko.
Some legendary stories have come back from that, Stevo.
Andy's brother Mick, and we knew we went over with sort of thinking, yeah, listen, we'll buy a ticket, we'll buy one off the touts, and a mate of Shawnee's sort of warned us away from that when we were over there because there was so many fakes going. So first night over there, we made our decision that we weren't going to the game, and that took all the pressure off trying to find a ticket and scramble around for one and whatever else. And we went out with the lads from we went to see the Anfield Rap lads, Gibbo and fucking Neil and whatever else. And that day in that square, I don't know if anybody who's watching this was over there as well. It was phenomenal. I've never experienced an atmosphere not in a ground like it. It was just absolutely hopping from fucking 12 o'clock that day right up to basically kickoff. And then there's some great stories, as you know yourself, about what happened sort of coming up to kick off and getting into the bar and the police shutting the fucking bar down, all that sort of stuff. It just led to a night that went on till 7 o'clock the next morning with me and Shawnee talking to fucking some Mexican drug cartel boss. And it was just one of those, it was literally nearly 20. Honestly, it was fucking bananas. Your man was from Mexico City, and he was a fucking baller. He was a mental bastard with this big gang of people with him and everything. But it was nearly 24. It was like the Hangover in Madrid. It was just fucking bananas. So for that, and the fact that it was finally, our first cup under Klopp, and he finally won he got a final under his belt, and yeah, it was just a collection of things. So those other two games have an emotional aspect, but that just for what it represented and everything. Yeah, I think the final in Madrid against Spurs wasn't the best match in the world, but what it meant to me and what everything that surrounded it was just magic. Yeah.
Well, can I tell you a little story about you're talking about like Barcelona? You were sitting in a hotel room. We were actually in the studio for that game, and it might have been a Tuesday night because we usually do stuff on a Monday in the studio. But we might have moved to the studio to Tuesday because we were playing Barcelona. And if I remember right, it was myself, Ray Dicko, who came over at half time. He was trying to listen to it on AM radio in his car.
Long wave.
Long wave 252. But he was trying to listen to it on the way and get over to the studio at half time. Andy Young was there. Phil Casey was there. Shawnee Lawson was there. And we went in to watch the game. And the link we had for the game wouldn't work on the TV. No, lovely big TV in the studio and everything, all linked up, but it wasn't working. It just kept kicking us, right? So Phil said, "Oh lads, I'll put it on my laptop for you." So we literally, Phil sitting there with a 14-inch fucking MacBook or whatever. So there's myself, Shawnee, Andy, Dicko. There might have been someone else there, but anyway, we're all watching this on this laptop, right? And it was half time. We got to half time. It was 1-0, wasn't it? And we're saying to ourselves, right, look, we try sort of telly. Fuck the telly. The laptop's working fine. We'll just watch it on the laptop once we see it. So, of course, the laptop was going, but it was stopping every so often and stuff like that. And it was about 15 minutes into the second half. I turned around, and when I looked around, most of us were watching it. Phil Casey was having a full-blown row with the remote control off the big telly because it wouldn't work, right? So Liverpool, this is unfolding where Liverpool are doing the best comeback you've ever seen in Champions League history. Four of us are pinned around this 14-inch fucking laptop, and Phil Casey is still roaring at the telly that hasn't worked for an hour, and he's like, "This is a load of bollocks. This is a load of bollocks." And I'm like, "No, we're doing all right here." Well, it was
He doesn't like football.
But I'll tell you the one time the laptop froze in the second half. Once. And it was when the ball went from Shaqiri and it was just on Gino Wijnaldum's head and it froze, right? And I swear to God, Andy Young jumped up and went, "Did he fucking score?" And with that, it came back on. And as it came back on, it caught itself up and it was in the net and we went berserk. Like, literally, the lads were booking flights that night. But I will never forget Barcelona being beaten at Anfield 4-0 by Liverpool, and Philip Casey, well, I don't know which of the fields, but one of them was having a massive row with a remote control off a telly that had not worked in an hour. It was outrageous.
Yeah, I was on to Dicko that night booking. He was booking flights from Dublin, and I was booking them from Greece, and we were trying to coordinate to get over there and everything. Yeah, it was some crack.
It was amazing.
Those days will be back when we can all travel away and have the crack again. They're not far away, lads. They're not far away. So I'm gonna come on to the next topic, right? Because we've got about another 10 or 15 to get through. We're probably not going to get through them all, but we've been talking now for nearly 45 minutes, right? So I'm going to come to you first, Jonathan. And the lads kind of touched on it a little bit there. Greatest moment of your time as a fan? Would you say that it would have been those Barcelona games, or do you think it's when we've finally got that elusive league title?
Again, similar to the last question, so many moments, so many personal moments as well. I think that's the thing about it. The guys have touched on it. There's different occasions will mean different things to different people, given what's going on in their life. I suppose that is one of the joys of football, bringing us all together. I think, look, it's a difficult goal. I think it's in the normal circumstances, and particularly the way, I suppose, COVID hit in during the league occasion. That was kind of special. I think, if we're being brutally honest, I don't think it was as special as it would have been had we been going to stadiums, had we having the proper trophy presentation. But on a personal note, I think it is being there in Madrid and seeing that first trophy. Not the greatest games, as we touched on, but the occasion. Like, and you factor in just how good Kiev was as well. Like, what a. I know the result didn't go our way, but my God, what a trip! What a trip Kiev was. It was, I suppose, arguably the trip itself and everything that went with it was probably even arguably better than Madrid, if that makes sense. Despite us losing in Kiev, like, Kiev was just some of the stories from there was just batshit crazy. Like, it's how that ever held a European Cup final, I will never know. But Madrid, in that sense of relief and everything that went with it, it was you could look around and think about flashbacks to behind the goal there at the end of the game. You Carragher in front of us losing these absolute marbles while trying to be working. You had people crying on them. It wasn't even that was that loud, if that makes sense. It was more just an outbreak of just raw emotion from all sides of the ground where Liverpool were, because you knew it was coming. That was it for the last couple of minutes. Once Origi got that second goal, and the scenes from that, you knew it was happening. You knew the monkey was finally off his back. It was hard to remember when the Liverpool won a trophy was before that. It was such a long and so many false dawns, and you'd gone into the game hearing all the same nonsense about Klopp when finally well, it was just that raw outburst of emotion that for me will probably top a lot. Look, the league is always going to be better in terms of kind of football point of view, but just emotionally and personally, that in Madrid will be hard to top.
Gav, where do you sit on this one?
There's loads, and it's Istanbul. It's Istanbul. Madrid, like the lads say, it's Klopp's first trophy, and he was being battered a little bit, wasn't he, about his record and finals and stuff like that. And you look where he's gone on from there. The league title is huge. Although there is a bit of I'm not saying a shine taken off it, because we won the league title. But the fact that they had to do it at an empty Anfield with just pour on as many fireworks as they could and flash of lights to try and make it an atmosphere out of it was a pity for the players. Although they still have a Premier League medal and we can tell people we're champions again. But Istanbul, fucking hell, like. You know, you can go through games where the roller coaster emotions and it was a tight game or we got a last minute winner. You know, I remember going mad in the pub and Smitzer scores a last minute winner against Chelsea, you know, 2001 or 2 or whatever it was. But Istanbul, Jamie, fucking mad, absolutely insane. Like I remember the lead up to Istanbul. I'd only bought a house and literally I'd moved into the house probably 2 weeks before, no, a month before the final, probably a little bit more. But I remember going down the pub. I remember toiling the kitchen floor, and my wife at the time saying, "Are you going to finish that floor tonight?" I was like, "Yeah, 100%." And then me and my uncle looked, and it was 7:30. We're like, Liverpool are playing whoever in the quarter final, and off we went. And we went down the pub, and when we came back, locked, and there was grout everywhere, and we were like, I'm doing in the morning, it'd be grand. But I always remember the run because I'd only bought the house, and then the semi-final I watched at home on my own in like literally a house that I'd bought, and it was like in the middle of painting and flooring and all. It was just in the middle of a building site more or less. I'm watching the Chelsea one, and that was insane. That was a mad night at Anfield. But Istanbul, I said, no, I'm going out for this. I'll go down to the pub for Istanbul, and what a fucking night. I remember sitting at half time, and the pub, no one left the pub. I have to say, no one left the pub. They all stayed, you know, but it was literally standing at the bar ordering points at half time going, what the fuck is this? And thinking, you know, you have to go into work. Well, I think I went to work the next morning, but you figuratively, you were saying you were going to go into work the next day, and United fans were going to be on you and different things. And just that hour of football, that following hour and a half, was just, it was like an out-of-body experience. It genuinely was. Because I know that my wife was in the pub, my mother and father-in-law were in the pub, and an uncle of mine was in the pub, and I can't remember any of them being in the fucking pub. I can't remember talking to any of them. I can't remember interacting. I can't even remember offering them, do you want a drink? I just went into this zone from...
That's because you never buy anyone a drink. You can't
get the fucking boat. I'm fucking sick buying drink. But it's one of those where when Gerrard gets that first one, I went into this zone, and I never came out of it. I never came out of it until Dudek saved that penalty from Shevchenko. And I've told this story before. I lost my new house keys, my phone, cigarettes, wallet, with all my cards, money, everything. I just came home with the clothes on my back, and my wife was like, "You've lost the keys to the house," and you're fuck, who cares? We go down tomorrow, we might find them. I found most. Some of Robbie smokes, but everything else was intact. But it was just
clothes on your back, but your dignity was still in the boozer.
Yeah, fucking sure it was. I was all over the bleeding shop. You know what I mean? Or I was pouring points out of my head and everything, like, and proper points. None of this fucking cheap bottles in the submarine. But no, Istanbul was just for any Liverpool fan of any age that can remember watching that. It was everyone had to. I had to feel like an out of body experience. I had to feel like something that I'm actually not watching this. Like when you see the 3 goals go in. Shevchenko misses that chance. They pin us back. Gerrard ends up at right back. We have injuries, you know, and then it goes to penalties. And Serginho, wasn't it, is putting one out of the stadium, and Pirlo misses one, and Shevchenko misses the decider. It was just, you couldn't believe what you were seeing, especially after what you'd witnessed in the first 45. So it's absolutely Istanbul.
I think the moment that sold it for me on Istanbul was when Dudek saved it with his face. And I looked at my brother and I went, we're winning this, aren't we? Because I'll be honest, like, I'll hold my hands up, call me a bad fan, whatever. I was close to going at half time. My head had gone completely. I was absolutely...
Like you, Jamie.
Yeah, it's not like...
I know, flouncing. I'm not even in a WhatsApp group. Flouncing out the pub. But my brother said to me, look, you got to stay. I've had enough. I don't like football anymore. So I was like, look, I'm gonna stay. And my brother sat me down and I was like, look, there's a pint. Just shut up and behave yourself for a bit. So I was like, right, okay. So I drank my pint, and then the first goal went in. He said, see, that gets you another hour. Just sit there, relax. And then it started to happen. And then when Smeacher scored that goal, I remember at the end of the game, I think we mentioned this on a couple of weeks ago, Gav. I remember sitting outside with my brother, absolutely buckled. sweat dripping off us, sat on the side of the road, on a curb, outside the pub. I think most people are gone at this point. I don't even think we were talking. We were just drained of everything. Steve-O, is Istanbul the same for you, or have you got another one?
Listen, your 3 answers have been that fucking long. I can't remember what the question was. To be honest with you.
It was when was the last time you bought me a drink? Was the question?
Yeah, Istanbul. Genuinely, what was the question?
It was, what was your greatest game? But for saying that, right, we're going to move to the next question. Yeah, we've got some quick fire ones now, anyway, right? Yeah. And that's the thing. I think when you talk about games and players that mean so much to so many people, there's no way to give a short answer. But we're going to try, because we're 54 minutes in, right? So the next question is for you, Steve-O, and it's, which is the greatest player we nearly signed?
Ooh. Greatest player. Well, I suppose half of it was bullshit, wasn't it? You know what I mean? We nearly signed half of the greatest players out there, but we were probably never in for them. So, that's a. Some people are going to pop up answers here now, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I should have said that. I should have said that. One that really sticks out for me that we missed at the time, and we had him for a little while, was what we could have done with Nicholas Anelka instead of El Hadj Diouf. Had we just signed him that summer instead of El Hadj Diouf, that's one. Alan Shearer, there was talk of us going for him when he was at Blackburn, and that would have been a phenomenal signing for us. I'm trying to think who else. I don't know. I'm actually rattled by that a little bit, and I don't want to spend ages on because I know you want to try and get through a few. So yeah, I'm going to say Anelka. For me, it's just like I see Mohammed said Ronaldo there as well. Ronaldo's a funny one because he was so raw. There's no guarantee he would have turned into the player he is now had he not had those formative years under Alex Ferguson in a successful Man United side that went on. I think coming to us, it might have been a different ball game, you know what I mean, than how he turned out at United. So for me, Anelka, because he came and he did really, really well, and I couldn't understand why we didn't sign him. And then we signed that absolute prick, Diouf. My most hated Liverpool player of all time is that fucking shitbag.
I'm supportive of any answer that means that shitbag is not at the club. So I'm with you on that one, Steve-O, for sure. Jonathan, what about you?
Oh, he's frozen.
He's froze.
Well, I think that the age-old debate is Samau, isn't it? Really, he's been trying.
We nearly signed him 10 seasons in a row, didn't we?
Over the years. Yeah, I think absolutely. You go back to all the other links that you remember. Younger days, Batistuta was the one that was linked forever and ever as well. I suppose a different tangent though on the El Hadji Diouf one, and I echo all the causes, like how he ended up playing for Liverpool for so many reasons is beyond me. But at the time as well, it was not paying. I think it was £17 million to Blackburn for Damien Duff at the time. And what a difference he would have meant to us, but also the impact that he had on the early days under kind of that start of the Abramovich area, under an area I think was assigned by Chelsea, and how good he would have been for us. And I think had we got that right, and definitely the Anelka one is another one of those moments, but we were literally, I think, an Anelka or a Damien Duff away from winning the title back then. That's how close we could have been. But obviously, look, there's a bit of Irish patriotism involved in it as well, but Duff was that good. Duff could have went on and tried to get Harry Kewell a year later, again, with the hope that he'd be something similar. Didn't work out, but you look at a team of superstars, and that early Chelsea team, kind of, that was the first, I think, season under Abramovich, and you look at all the players that they signed, you look at what Mutu, Crespo, the list goes on and on and on, kind of superstar names. Well, yet Diouf, and I suppose you flip on it with Robin as well, the wing play that Mourinho introduced with them as well, but just how good he would have been for us. And look, again, we go back to a bit of patriotism, as I touched on there, but the great Irish team, our Liverpool teams, always had that bit of Irish blood in them as well over the years, and I think we're a bit more proud of that. You just even look at the likes of Keller coming through, making a handful of appearances, how excited the whole country gets again. Stephen to a lesser extent after that, but look at all the famous Liverpool players over the years, your Ronnie Whelans and the like. I think we really missed an opportunity there, and I think it's the one stinker out of the kind of the Hoolier years is that we didn't make that time superstar for us.
Gav, who's yours before we move to the quick fire answers?
Well, Michael Laudrup is a great show. Somebody put in there a few minutes ago because Michael Laudrup was close to signing for Liverpool and then didn't. Peter Schmeichel. Peter Schmeichel was heavily linked with Liverpool and it didn't happen. And he ends up at Manchester United. Another one is Teddy Sheringham, who Roy Evans wanted to bring in and he was told that he was too old. Didn't want to bring him in. That's another one. Duff is a good show because Duff was linked all the time to Liverpool. Of course, Ronaldo, Steve was right. You don't know where he's going to turn out, but when you look at Ronaldo now and the I suppose the desire he has to be just elite at everything he does, I'd say he probably would have had a fair go at it at Liverpool. I try not to dwell on them too much. Dani Alves is another one that was linked heavily and Benitez wanted him, and that didn't happen. But there's so many down the years, but it's hard to pin one. I'm being honest with you. If I was to pin one, I think that would have really got you excited and really brought us to another level. I'd probably go Dani Alves.
So I got a couple more on the list, right? And there's one that's in the news at the moment. Sergio Aguero. Sergio Aguero was a Liverpool fan, and there was a lot of rumours that we were potentially after him. Would you have liked to seen us take a punt on him, Steve-O? Who's yours?
Yeah, I would have, absolutely. Somebody mentioned it earlier on, David Silva. Rafa wanted to bring David Silva for about 18 months and wasn't given the chance to, and he would have made a massive difference to that Liverpool side at the time. You're talking about upgrading Vladimir Smicer or someone of that ilk with David Silva. It was phenomenal. He was linked with David Villa at the time as well. I think if Rafa had the backing financially to do what he wanted to do and bring in the players that he wanted to bring in, rather than maybe having to go for the B or C list players, we would have seen that title come to us a lot earlier than we actually did. I just think every year we got close, our next year was an abomination for a long time, and now is the first time that you feel okay. I don't know a single Liverpool fan who doesn't feel confident about bouncing back next season because of Jurgen Klopp and because at the end of the day we could have 500 million quid. We could go out and sign Mbappe. We could sign this player and that player. There's no guarantee they're going to work. There's no guarantee that we overturn City. We're going to overturn them or anybody else next season based on the way that team pulls together and hopefully a bit of luck around injuries, but their own belief in themselves and the hurt they'll be feeling this season, and then that will to push on next season. And you can sign Haaland, you can sign Mbappe, you can sign whoever. I'm not saying they won't make us stronger as a squad, but there's no guarantee going out and spunking hundreds of millions of quid is going to work.
Right, so we got to finish up, right? We got a load of questions in on the Discord group today, right? So we're going to do some quick fire now, right? So first names that come to your head before we wrap up, right? The first one, I'm going to start with you, Gav. Greatest Liverpool kit.
95, 96 away, green and white squares, please.
Ooh, retro. I like it.
Yeah.
Who's the first player that you think of when you think of that kit?
Michael Thomas.
Yeah, okay. Fair. Go on, Steve-O.
McAteer is who I think of with that kit.
Your mate Jason.
Yeah, J.O.
J.O. Right, next one. I'm going to come to you. J.O.
J.O.
Hey, J.O.
Hey, J.O. Jonathan, the question for you is greatest song. Jonathan's tip. You back with us?
Yeah.
It has to be the LA song, just the impact that has had and been sung to death over and over and over again, and how it can go on for hours. Yes, we have a lot better songs, but just the first one that comes into my head to over and over again, it has to be that one.
I'm going to make a special shout here for he's Czech, he's great, he's Paddy Berger's mate. It's Vladimir. I'm sorry, but that's got to be up there. Just for the
so is he's big, he's red, his feet stick out the bed.
He's big. Stick out of the fucking bed. Yeah.
I like Sadio's one. It's just it sticks in my head, and once you get singing it, you can't stop singing it.
I'm the same.
Is that the one after the? When he scores a Goodison, because I love that. Remember he scored at Goodison and they were singing Merry Christmas, everything.
version.
Yeah.
And yeah, they sung a Christmas version of it. I love that.
The one for me, I think Free World says it there in the comments, the Torres bounce one.
Yeah,
Like, we're going to bounce in a minute. Like that for me, if I have to pick, I mean, personal preference because of what they say and who he is, the Steven Gerrard one was unbelievable. But if I actually had to pick the Torres one, I mean, just the form that he was in, and then fans are saying we're going to bounce in a minute. Go on, Gal.
Maxi Rodriguez one.
Oh yeah.
Pull him away.
And if you go on YouTube and type that in LFC Maxi Rodriguez song, there's a 2-minute version at Craven Cottage, and it's phenomenal looking. It's Craven Cottage.
Sorry, Jonathan, what'd you say?
No, I was just saying that Maxi won at Fulham away under Kenny at the end of that season. He scores a hat trick, I think.
He does, yeah. They win 5-1 or
like
5-0. Yes, it's brilliant. Go and watch it on YouTube. It's
sang for about 10 minutes at the end. It was just after all the crap that we had at the start of that season, to come back and have that positivity is one of those memories that sticks there, right?
Right, a couple more, boys, before we finish up. Right now, the greatest football brain to you, Gav.
Oh wow.
Player or manager?
Oh, good. Didn't even think of that, Steve. I like it. You can go either.
Rafa Benitez then.
So you're going with manager rather than player?
Yeah, because I think you could easily go Dalglish has a great brain. You know, Moby had a great brain. Alonso had a brilliant footballing brain. You know, and then there's others, but Rafa Benitez was absolutely obsessed with football tactically and the whole mental side of it, and looking at it and using your brain. And so I'd have to go Rafa Benitez.
Steve, greatest right foot.
Greatest right foot. Fuck.
It's not Andy Young anyway, left foot.
Fuck. I don't know. I'm thrown by that.
If I'd have said greatest left foot, you'd have been able to say Stig and Bjornaby, and it would have all been okay with that.
I'd have said Robbie Fowler was greatest left foot, but I think Suarez was right-footed, was he?
Yeah, Suarez is predominantly right.
Yeah, I'd pick Suarez.
Good shout coming in the comments there. Jan Molby. Jan Molby's a shout, by the way.
Yeah.
What a ping he had.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Alonso was outrageous, lads.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he was unbelievable. Either foot.
Yeah, but his right foot in particular, he was just he could do anything with it.
Not Daniel Day-Lewis anyway. So.
Daniel Day-Lewis. Let Christie take it. Steve-O's gone.
Right, to wrap up, lads, before this descends into madness, right? We're going to finish, and one word answer. Mm-hmm. The greatest manager in the club's history, and I'm going to come to you first, Gav.
Of course you are. It's Bob Paisley.
Bill Paisley.
Yeah.
Steve-O's giddy now. You can see it in his eyes.
As he's known in this parish. No, but it's Bob Paisley. It's Bob Paisley, 100%.
Steve-O?
Yeah, I'm going to agree. Listen, the fucking trophies. The trophies stack up. It's
not even the trophies. You ever see the big bottles of fucking Bell's whiskey you used to get?
He was out of his face most of the time.
He had 9 trophies and about 14 litres of 25 litres of whiskey beside him every season.
Oh, he was able to stand up, never mind make decisions. It was unbelievable.
And he always said he was really laid back. I'm not fucking surprised. You know the gag they were giving him every 6 months.
He was laid back on the fucking ground.
Oh, stop.
Jonathan, who's yours?
Yeah, you can't disagree with that. It has to be Paisley.
Okay, right. So, lads,
can I give an honourable shout though for Klopp though, because Dalglish, you know, I think he was brilliant as a manager for loads of different things, like I said earlier. But Klopp, when you see managers come into this club, like especially when you look at like not so much Roy Evans. Roy Evans knew what was going on, you know, and then you move on to Houllier and he tries to revolutionise the club and its outlook and the way it carries itself. Benitez was just, you know, master tactician and you move on through them and stuff like that. Rodgers but they all spoke about, you know, we need to do this. We need to be here. And Klopp he was better than most of them, but he was a breath of fresh air because he came in and he went, look, yeah, you haven't won in a long time. Forget about it. What you need to forget. And I think one of the biggest things that Klopp done was put a fan base at ease. You know, the kind of the blood pressure dropped a little bit when Klopp came in, because he was able to say, forget about things. We'll be here for 4 or 5 years. We'll win something. Don't be worrying about it. We'll get on with our business and we'll do it well. But it's I'd like to give a mention to Klopp because I think he's been outstanding. What's this fucker saying?
I'm a prick. Sorry, Gav. I shouldn't have put that on the screen. I could not. Veranda cheese.
Veranda
cheese.
Why do people keep? That's a friend of ours, and
it's a great comment. To be fair,
it is a great comment. But he's also the fella that had the cling film comment.
Yeah.
While back, yeah.
I was thinking he's one man to be talking about anybody fucking else now, but still.
Yeah, exactly.
Comments are absolutely legendary, right, lads? A couple of things to call out before we wrap up. New websites, as we've mentioned on all the shows, a lot of hard work has gone into it. Been fantastic to see that so many people have been sending in articles. So please do keep it coming. If you want to contribute, you want to share your opinion. There's no restriction on who can share what. If you're passionate about the club and you've got a story to tell, let us know. Send it to lfcdaytrippers@gmail.com and we'll get it up on the site. Discord, as you've seen us mention, to be honest, I wasn't a Discord user. I am now. It's great crack. To be honest, there's a lot less dickheads than there is on Twitter. It's all sound people, basically talking about everything from dance tunes. We've got dance tunes. We've got UFC. We've got everything you can think of to do with Liverpool, but it's all sound people. So Gav will link that in the description to this podcast. So make sure you click that and get involved. Finally, last thing to call out, you've now seen what the prize will be for the 10K subscriber push. When we get to 10K subscribers, we will be giving away a PS5 to one lucky subscriber. So if you haven't already, make sure you do subscribe. Send the link to a mate to subscribe as well. OnlyFans with Stevo after hours. Brilliant. I'd sign up for that, Stevo.
I'd love if, do you know what I'd love, right? If we were about to end this show and Stevo thought we were like not live anymore and just turned around and picked that headboard up, and it turns out he was just had it sitting against his car. You know what I mean?
Just down in the car park.
This is me backdrop.
Lift it up, walk away.
Back in the shed till next week.
Gav, what else have we got coming up this week?
What day is today, Jamie? Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Thursday is Carnage with Grizz, himself, Avi, Lee Gunner, and the really sound Arsenal fella as well. Turkish is his name. He's very, very good. So was Lee Gunner, absolute head case. So they're going to be doing Carnage tomorrow night at 10 o'clock, previewing, of course, Liverpool and Arsenal. Friday night is the Friday forecast with Chris, again, looking at the weekend's fixtures and a couple of mad ones thrown in there as well, as that show has developed over the last couple of weeks with different angles they're looking at. So that'll be on Friday, and on Sunday then we will be back with the Fat Back 4.
Fantastic. I have to echo the sentiments of Jonathan. Thank God the horrible internationals are over. That is correct. Liverpool will be back at the weekend. Finally, to finish, just a quick shout out to footballprizes.co.uk. As I said at the start, amazing Trent and Van Dijk signed and framed jersey. $9.95 to enter, 10% off at checkout with the code LFCDT10. There's 125 tickets available. The offer ends next Wednesday, so make sure you do go get involved. That's enough from us. Big thanks as always to Gav, Stevo and Jonathan and everybody else who's got involved in the live chat, whether that's the Discord group throughout the week or engage with us on any of the social media channels. It really is appreciated, so do please keep it up. With that, I hope you all have enjoyed the show. Look after yourselves, stay safe, and we will be back with you next Wednesday on the Midweek Fix. All the best.